Number 10. Cyborg. In Injustice Gods Among Us number 15, Cyborg, Wonder Woman, and Superman go to Arkham Asylum to move its prisoners to Superman's quote-unquote secure facility. Cyborg takes control of the asylum security and begins opening cell doors for Flash to whisk away the prisoners inside. When he is about to open the Riddler's cell, Batman gives him a little warning not to, which Cyborg ignores. All it takes is one button on Batman's utility belt and Cyborg's systems go haywire. He falls to the ground, writhing in pain, until Nightwing steps in and presses the button again. It turns out that after Cyborg checks the date of the virus that caused this, Batman had uploaded the virus the very first day the two met, and he's had it the whole time. An easy little button press and he takes down an extremely advanced Cyborg. Number 9. Green Arrow. In the Deceased storyline, when an anti-life virus is spreading throughout the globe and infects Superman, Damian Wayne, the Batman at the time, gets access to Bruce's files around taking down the Justice League. The funniest and most embarrassing thing though is that when Green Arrow assumes there's a file with his name on it, Damian informs him that there isn't. Batman didn't have a single file for Green Arrow. He didn't even see Green Arrow as a real threat. Bruce is dishing out the embarrassments even beyond the grave. But Green Arrow could be a planetary threat if he wanted to. Wait a minute, you know what would be really embarrassing? If you didn't like and subscribe to our channel. Kidding, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Number 8. The Hulk. Bet you didn't expect to see this on the list. Honestly, who would? I know who. Anyone who knows that Batman is Batman, that's who. In 1981's DC Special Series number 27, Batman comes upon the rampaging Green Rage monster. The Joker had tricked Hulk into believing Batman was an enemy. The Hulk ended up getting the Dark Knight in a bear hug, where he almost broke the Bat's back. Batman busts out of it and uses a knockout gas. But Hulk ain't that dumb, and he just holds his breath. Until Batman kicks him straight in the stomach, winding the Green Giant and causing him to breathe in. Yeah, it's probably unrealistic as hell, but it's a man that fights criminals in a bat suit fighting a guy that turns into a giant green monster because of gamma rays from a bomb. So tell me how that's realistic.
At number 7, we have the time when Thanos rips Vision's insides out. Now, Vision is basically the son of Ultron and a very powerful and influential counterpart to Thanos. His abilities are very extensive, allowing him to phase through matter with ease, for instance, and although he is able to phase through Thanos at first, catching him off guard and throwing him off balance, Thanos regains control of the situation. And in this fateful moment, he pulls Vision from inside his own body and holds him up by the throat. But that isn't it. He then uses the Infinity Gauntlet to reach inside the android's body and tear out all of his wiring, putting an end to his efforts for good. Okay, at number 6 is the time when Thanos kills Cyclops by suffocating him inside a clear box. This is a brutal end to Cyclops' legacy at the hands of Thanos. When the two of them are squaring off in a big battle along with the other X-Men, Cyclops has a moment where he gets the upper hand on Thanos, and as the leader of the X-Men, the reader is expecting at this point to possibly witness a victory at the hands of the good guys. Because it isn't often that we see someone as decorated and influential as Cyclops losing a fight, let alone losing his own life. But the reader doesn't get what they want here, as Thanos creates a small clear box around Cyclops' head, which seems to be impenetrable by his laser vision blasts. Not only that, but Cyclops quickly starts losing air and suffocating in the little clear box. As Captain America rushes over, he realizes that it's too late by the time he gets over to Cyclops, and he dies. As humiliating of a defeat as it is, embarrassment was probably the last thing on anyone's mind. I would assume, sadness and tragedy came first. Still pretty embarrassing though. Okay, at number 5 is the time in Avengers Infinity War when Thanos knocks out the Hulk almost effortlessly. And what makes this one extra humiliating is that Thanos doesn't even have all the Infinity Stones yet. Right around this scene, Thanos has just acquired the Space Stone, but it wouldn't seem to most that this would be enough to beat the Hulk as badly as he does. He seems to be toying with the big green behemoth for a while before deciding he's ready to take the victory. So he just simply knocks out the Hulk. And listen, it may be easy to lose track of power hierarchies in Infinity War given all the unimaginable power coming from the Infinity Stones, as well as all the different superheroes and supervillains who come and go. But we can't forget that the Hulk is still a serious force that the Avengers themselves have had a very hard time containing in the past. So for Thanos to just toss him aside like this is definitely a major display of supreme power, and maybe a little embarrassing. as well. At number 4 is when Thanos turns Wolverine's skeleton into rubber, basically. The image is too much to bear as we see Wolverine's body fall to the ground like an empty gym bag. And this comes right after Wolverine gets a big shot in on Thanos. During the onslaught to take down the Titan, Wolverine actually manages to stick his claws into Thanos' back. Silver Surfer even thinks this is the killing blow as they watch in anticipation, but much to everyone's surprise, or are they even surprised anymore? Thanos shrugs off the attack and jellifies Wolverine's otherwise indestructible adamantium skeleton. This moment is pivotal in the development of both Thanos and Wolverine's characters, considering it shows Thanos' sheer raw power and, on the other hand, totally diminishes Wolverine's long-hyped strength that seems to be near its peak during the Infinity War. I mean, who hasn't thought about how strong adamantium is and how much it'd take for somebody to get the upper hand on Wolverine? And then just to see him lying on the ground like that, still conscious but totally useless, it's too much. Next slide. At number 3 is when Thanos totally thwarts Quasar's attacks and turns him into ash with little to no effort. So in this same battle during the Infinity War, which makes up most of this list it seems, Quasar takes a shot at Thanos himself. When things are looking grim for the Allies, Quasar is called upon by Adam Warlock to support in the fight against Thanos. And Quasar comes at him with all the confidence and bravado that he's usually known for. And for good reason too, because after all, he is the one carrying the quantum bands, which have basically immeasurable power. So in this final chance to avenge Spider-Man, Thor, and Wolverine, among so many others, Quasar appears to be the one who can pull out a heroic win for the good guys. But once again, our hopes are all dashed as Thanos just explodes the quantum bands, rendering Quasar totally useless. As he falls to his knees defeated, Thanos simply blasts him with a good old beam of power and turns him into ash. Does anyone think this list is starting to sound more and more like that compilation in The Incredibles where we see all those heroes die because of their capes? It's just like pure confidence, absolutely annihilated by Thanos' might, and always in such an embarrassing way. At number 2 is when Thor is turned into glass and then shattered. This is a devastating defeat since Thor appears to be the Allies' last hope in defeating the newly godlike Thanos. After a harrowing battle where Thor even loses his hammer for a time and then nearly suffocates in space, it's finally down to a showdown between arguably the two most powerful forces on this battlefield. But as Thor is approaching Thanos with the energy as though he's gonna deliver the final blow, Thanos simply turns him into glass, and then without hesitation proceeds to smash the Thor statue into a million pieces. This obviously takes the God of Thunder out of the fight and basically out of reality. Such a build-up suggests a much more intricate and balanced face-off would occur, but even after all the preparation and anticipation, Thanos still proves that he's no one to be messed with, even by the God of Thunder. Pretty embarrassing if you ask me. You know, you gotta feel for the guy, or the millions of little pieces of the guy that's left. At number 1 is the time when Thanos breaks Captain America's neck with a backhanded slap to the face. This is by far one of the most humiliating defeats on the list, both because of the status and build-up of Captain America's character, and also the fact that it's basically just a slap that takes Cap out of commission. During what appears to be a final epic confrontation between Captain America and Thanos, Cap is throwing some epic monologues at the godly purple alien like, "As long as one man stands against you, you will never claim victory." But as this is going down, Thanos almost entirely misses the fact that Silver Surfer is flying towards him with the intention of snatching the Infinity Gauntlet off of his hand. And he almost does too. But Thanos, of course, becomes aware of it at the last moment, and in his rage and possibly in a state of his own little bit of embarrassment, he turns and smacks Captain America in the face with a backhanded slap, breaking the hero's neck and killing him. It seems like a theme in these final encounters after Thanos retrieves all the Infinity Stones that he almost gets beaten, but then totally snaps back and shows the heroes who's boss. Snaps back. Get it? Snaps? I didn't even notice that until I said it. At number 10, we have the time when the Flash accidentally kills Reverse Flash by breaking his neck. This incident takes place in the Flash number 79 when Reverse Flash seems to be back to mess with Barry Allen's life again. Their beef starts when Reverse Flash kills the love of Barry's life, Iris West, and sends the Flash into a depression, naturally. But when Barry finally moves on and is set to marry Fiona Webb, Reverse Flash shows up again and tries to kill his new fiancée. So what does Barry Allen do? He swoops in and grabs Reverse Flash in a chokehold while he's in motion, thus snapping his neck and killing him right there and then. Which is pretty embarrassing considering Barry basically just uses Reverse Flash's own momentum to kill him. But following this event, the whole city catches wind of what happens and actually turns on Barry for some reason. I do not understand this. Reverse Flash kept showing up to kill his wives. At a certain point, you have to take that guy out for good. They even put him on trial and convict him, causing the Flash to pack up and move to a different reality, which is like the superhero equivalent of moving to a new town, I guess. Number 9 is a fun one. This one is about Kid Flash and the time that he actually throws none other than Superboy Prime for a loop by running around him in a flurry and even landing a few punches on him. What makes this super embarrassing is that Superboy Prime is trying to have a serious revelation about where the Flash has gone and what Kid Flash is doing in his place. There's been some kind of break in the timeline at this point, and Superboy Prime thinks that the Flash has been killed. And as this epic realization moment is supposed to be happening, Kid Flash is ducking and dodging around Superboy's blasts and just being straight up goofy about the whole situation. So not only does the Flash seem to cheat death here, but his youthful replacement is just absolutely toying with this hyper-powerful villain and not even breaking a sweat. This moment serves a helpful purpose as well because the rest of the team is able to focus on their objectives while Superboy Prime is distracted. And on top of everything, Kid Flash ends up having a full-on reunion with his friend, totally ignoring Superboy Prime. This isn't something such a powerful villain is used to, being taken for a fool like this. I just feel like it belongs on the list. At number 8 is a pretty cruel one. In The Flash number 200, Wally West basically forces Zoom to relive the most traumatic day of his life on a loop for eternity. But once again, this is the result of Zoom attacking his wife Linda and effectively ending the life of the baby in her womb. Okay, well, what's the deal with everyone going after the Flash's wives? Honestly, this is a pretty hardcore punishment for Zoom and might even go further than embarrassment in its effect, but he sort of had it coming. I mean, if Wally wanted to, he could have probably just killed him once he caught him, but instead he decides he's gonna let the guy think about what he's done for the rest of eternity while living out the worst thing he's ever experienced. A villain like Zoom isn't used to facing punishment like this very often, but trying to take things as far as he did does have its consequences, even at the hands of an otherwise kind and forgiving superhero like the Flash. Don't mess with the fam, people, come on. He's the fastest dude in the cosmos.
Number 7. Green Lantern. First off, Justice League War is an awesome animated DC movie. We see the Justice League come together for the first time. In one of the first interactions between Green Lantern and Batman in a sewer, there's a bit of banter between Hal and Bruce when Hal realizes that Batman is literally just some guy in a bat costume. And he asks, "What, no one asked you to prom, so now you just dress as a bat and prowl around your parents' basement?" Batman, in response, simply just pauses and then asks, "What's this do?" as he holds up the Green Lantern's ring. It makes me genuinely chuckle. But then, when Green Lantern tries to tell him that he won't be able to do that again, Batman just hits him with, "Unless I want to." What a boss. Number 6. Green Lantern again. In All-Star Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder, Green Lantern gets shown up. In order to face Hal Jordan, Batman lures him into a room where he has painted literally everything yellow. Why? The Green Lantern ring has the unfortunate weakness of not being able to affect anything yellow. So all the furniture, his and Robin's costumes, even their faces, and to top it all off, he even taunts Green Lantern while drinking lemonade. To really top it off, Batman isn't even the one to fight the Lantern. He leaves that to his ward, Robin, who admittedly takes it a bit too far. Number 5. Okay, one last Green Lantern defeat. Now, before you jump on me for including 3 times he's embarrassed the Green Lantern, you should know that 1, I don't even like Green Lantern that much, and 2, this time it was Guy Gardner, who is arguably the most annoying one. In 1987's Justice League number 5, or Justice League International number 5, Guy Gardner is his usual cocky, jerkish self. And a conflict between him and Batman has been brewing for a few issues, with Guy just kind of being a huge pain in the butt. But when Guy finally rears back to throw his punch, the Dark Knight is in there so fast, punching this guy so hard he knocks him clean out. And then him and the rest of the league leave him on the floor while they continue planning and even go on missions. Then he He doesn't even come to until like 2 issues later, when he just accidentally knocks himself back out. Number 4. The Punisher. Punisher / Batman Deadly Nights is a very short-lived confrontation between these two heroes occurs when Batman stops Punisher from killing the Joker, which, as we know, goes against Batman's ideology. He interrupts the Punisher, coming in between him and his gun, and telling the Joker to run. In his frustration, Punisher drops his pistol and gets one mean punch in across Batman's face. Just the one though, as Batman lets him know he will only allow that one. Seeing how the Punisher probably thinks Bruce deserves it. It really gets embarrassing when Mr. Castle goes for a second swing and Batman redirects the punch in one move, sending the Punisher face first into a pile of boxes stacked up against a brick wall. When Batman tells you only get one, you best believe him. Number 3. Justice Buster Armor. In the endgame story, the Joker has twisted the other members of the Justice League with his Joker toxin, meaning we get to see Batman take them all on. While we know he has contingencies for each member of the League, Batman instead dons an armor that has the capability to subdue every member of the Justice League, the Justice Buster. Using this suit, he puts Wonder Woman in a dream state, maps out the Flash's movements, and causes him to slip and crash into a building, knocking him out. He fires a foam made up of magnesium carbonate at Aquaman that envelops him and drains him of the moisture in his body the more he struggles. And then Superman shows up. The Justice Buster has plasma shields to deflect I-beams, thrusters and thermals to deter frost breath, but this is a Superman that isn't pulling his punches. When Superman gets through this armor, it doesn't matter though. Batman spits a polymer laced with green kryptonite dust into Superman's eyes, rendering him powerless. Number 2. Beating Superman as an old man. In the exceedingly famous Dark Knight Returns story, we see what is arguably one of the best Superman vs. Batman fights to ever grace comics. In the last issue, number 4, pits an aged Bruce Wayne against a Superman that has become a puppet of the government. Superman has been weakened by a nuclear explosion. He's been hit by hunter missiles, shot from a tank, shot with a sonic gun that makes his nose bleed. Batman uses every watt of the city's power to electrocute Superman's brain. Batman then socks Superman straight across the face a few times, shoots acid in his face, and after being hit with a green kryptonite arrow, Superman takes a studded boot to the jaw before Batman seemingly dies of a heart attack. Even at 55, he left Superman battered and bleeding, and the whole thing was just a ruse. Well played. Number 1. He put all the other heroes to shame. Of all the insanely powered heroes in the DC universe, Batman is the last person you or I think could pose a threat to Darkseid. So it's kind of embarrassing for every other hero that has lost to Darkseid when in the Final Crisis event, Bruce Wayne simply shoots Darkseid with a radion bullet, killing him, just like that. Yeah, he had the element of surprise because not a single soul thought he could pull off anything like that. Not even Superman could defeat Darkseid here. What makes it better is that it's not the only time he has beaten the God of Death. That's why you don't underestimate Batman, y'all. Number 10. Lex Luthor. Imagine your long-distance son, who you were finally gaining ground with, is killed by a giant 7-foot clone of himself. And then his psycho grandpa steals his body and puts it in a sarcophagus alongside a chaos crystal, which leads to the villains from Apocalypse coming and fighting you for it. Now, imagine your friends show up and start intervening, unintentionally blocking you from stopping the villains from stealing your son's body. How absolutely fuming might you be? That's kinda hard to imagine, isn't it? Well, basically, after the Shazam and Justice League aligned Lex Luthor tried justifying this, Batman lets both of them know why they should keep their mouths shut and not insert themselves into conflicts they know nothing about. Batman gets 3 good punches across Shazam's face, leaving him shocked and embarrassed, and then knocks Lex Luthor on his butt with a nice stiff punch, hurting his ego and his face. Number 9. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. As with almost all comics that take heroes from 2 different universes and throw them together, those heroes have to fight at least a little bit before they can join forces. It's just tradition at this point. So, of course, in 2016, when we see Batman team up with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a little scuffle has to take place. Oh, also, if you thought this kind of team up would be silly, yeah, maybe. But it's totally awesome. In their scuffle in the 2nd issue of the comic, Batman basically makes them look like amateurs. They end up hitting each other, being stunned by the Batmobile, having their weapons taken and used against them. Michelangelo starts to get some kind of conversation going before Splinter shows up and splinters the fight. It is super cool, and so is this comic. Give it a read. Cowabunga, dude. Hey there, nerds. Did you know that every time you hit that like and subscribe button, my appreciation of you grows by 4? For what? I don't know. I just work here. Anyways, keep whacking those buttons for more spicy content. Number 8, Nightwing. You know, I think Batman needs to kind of ease up on just punching people instead of talking. Sure, it gets stuff done, but then you end up crying at the Oscars while accepting your Best Actor award, so... When Batman first comes into contact with the Court of Owls, the members have special seals hidden in their mouths. The first Robin, now going by Nightwing, could possibly be one of them, as his great-grandfather is. So, how does Batman figure out if his old partner, longtime friend, and member of the Bat family is still loyal? Well, after a bit of lip from Dick Grayson, Batman punches Nightwing right in the mouth and knocks out his tooth to check. He was supposed to be a Talon of the Court of Owls, but he clearly isn't. Remind me never to become a Robin, okay?
At number 7 is the time when, in the early days of The Flash, he basically gloats over the dead body of a villain he's just driven off the road. Something about the old-timey era of superheroes makes moments like this so much more bizarre, because it seems like the writers haven't quite yet gotten the hang of the characters. Like, I don't think this is something The Flash would ever do again after this instance, but it's definitely a humiliating way to treat this enemy. In this scene here, this bad guy named Satan, totally unrelated to the fallen angel, goes flying off a cliff in a car and explodes in the wreckage on the ground below. And of course, the Flash is already there to watch it all go down. He just sort of stands over him with his hands on his hips and says, "I'm on hand just to see your finish, Satan. Thus ends the threat of the Faultless Four." Considering that superheroes are known to have more forgiving moral compasses, this is a pretty dark and humiliating end for this Satan guy. And he didn't even try to hurt the Flash's family or anything. Damn. Okay, at number 6 is the time when the Flash basically drives the Top completely insane. In issue number 215, during the event Identity Crisis, the Flash finally captures the Top and has Zatanna mind wipe him, turning him into a good guy. A once menacing and threatening villain, the Top is reduced to tears by the Flash after he is then forced to relive all his past evil deeds. And the Flash just sort of lets it happen. The Top becomes basically totally destroyed on the inside with guilt, facing his demons all at once as the Flash watches on. And tragically, the Top basically ends things for himself after everything is said and done. But the Flash doesn't seem to feel badly about it at all. He even refers to it as a kind of experiment and something he might try and do again. When I read that, I was like, whoa, Flash, chill out, dude. I think you got him. You definitely defeated the Top. You can just relax now. No need to try that out on anyone else. It's hard to watch, you know? What happened to putting people in jail and stuff? Alright, at number 5 is the time when the Flash kills Gorilla Grodd with a little sticky bomb. This is yet another savage moment for the Flash, or I suppose this is actually Scarlet Speedster, but he's filling in the role for the Flash, so it counts. During the Flash Annual number 3, the Scarlet Speedster is going back in time to correct some past evil deeds. You know, as he does. And on the way through time, he decides to take a quick stop at Grodd's lair. And while they duke it out for a while, the Flash decides that he's gonna take the gorilla out for good this time. So as he gets the better of Grodd, he plants a tiny sticky bomb on the ape and runs out of harm's way to basically watch the monkey go boom boom. As he's standing off to the side, his plan takes effect and the ape gets blown to smithereens right in front of him. What's humiliating about this moment is that Gorilla Grodd is just minding his own business before the Speedster shows up and decides it's the end of the road for him. And as he's trying to disarm the bomb, or at least rip it off his skin, Grodd's fingers are just too big to get a hold of the tiny bomb. It's sort of a sad moment, really. But definitely pretty embarrassing for a villain that otherwise poses a decent threat in the previous storylines. Okay, at number 4, we have the time when Barry Allen, aka The Flash, of course this is a Flash list, breaks a tie on a vote for whether or not to wipe Dr. Light's mind. The rest of the Justice League is torn on the severity of the punishment for Dr. Light's assault of Sue Dibney, but the Flash, once again choosing to be a savage that day, decides he'll allow it to go forth, and turns Dr. Light into a shell of his former self, completely without identity and basically rendered useless. And Dr. Light is normally a super threatening bad guy, so this isn't a position that he's used to being in, you know, totally stripped of everything he's ever known like that, and it's all at the hands of the Flash. This dude can be a real monster sometimes, eh? Even when Batman finds out this happens, he's like, what the hell? And sort of confronts the Flash, who then, get this, mind wipes him too. I think this list is perfect for the Flash because he just seems to like doing business this way every once in a while. Alright, at number 3, we have the time when the Flash turns Inertia into a living statue and then puts him in a museum. This is a pretty brutal punishment once again, and definitely something Inertia is not expecting. I mean, who thinks they're going to be overpowered on this level? After Kid Flash grows up, he takes over the moniker of Scarlet Speedster, filling in the role of the Flash while the mantle is basically unclaimed at the time. But he's eventually killed by inertia, which is a pretty sad outcome for Kid Flash. And when Wally West returns as the Flash, he hunts down Inertia and confronts him about this incident. But Inertia doesn't seem sorry at all. And this is when Wally West goes beast mode and freezes Inertia as a sentient statue and puts him in the Flash Museum. And remember, Inertia is still alive in there, taking everything in and very aware that they're probably going to be stuck as a statue forever. Visitors will come by and look at Inertia as part of a villain's exhibit, read the little plaque about him, go, oh, interesting, look, one point this guy was a pretty powerful villain. Look, his Latin name is Inerticus Godondicus. And he'll never be able to wreak havoc ever again. How humiliating. And honestly, sort of fair, all things considered. Okay, at number 2, we have the time that the Flash actually runs himself back to life. This is a feat that absolutely astounds Black Racer, who is basically a conduit of death, chasing the Flash to snuff him out for good. But the Flash runs into an issue, in that he will eventually run out of stamina if he keeps running for his life. So, what he decides to do is run so far into the future that he reaches the end of the universe. And what happens when they reach the end of the universe? Well, Black Racer can't go on any further, of course. And he sure doesn't expect this. Although I don't know why anyone could expect it, because if Black Racer can't go beyond the end of the universe, why can Barry? This question is hotly contested online and basically comes down to the explanation that Barry reaches the end of the universe before Black Racer can, basically causing death to cease to exist. So he doesn't just humiliate Black Racer, he humiliates Death, its creator. Death needed to create Black Racer, so Speedster couldn't outrun Death anymore, and for the Flash to simply thwart that plan by doing something as risky and badass as running to the end of the universe, it's just crazy. And it belongs on the list. Finally, at number 1 is the time when the Flash single-handedly destroys Anti-Monitor's antimatter machine. Although he knows it'll mean his death, the Flash takes on a machine that will otherwise kill everyone he's ever loved, and let Anti-Monitor take his final victory over humanity. So he does what he does best and runs really fast, encircling the machine and breaking apart its outer casing, blowing up some henchmen in the process. This basically renders the machine useless, and Anti-Monitor knows it. He doesn't even hide his panic either, as he screams out that the Flash is behind all this and that his whole plan is foiled. Such a huge enemy like Anti-Monitor getting taken out by one single tiny superhero is a pretty embarrassing situation, and it sort of proves that Anti-Monitor is totally underestimating the Flash and humanity itself. I mean, he even says it himself, 1,000 universes and more have died because of me. Yet those humans have thwarted my plans, and more than once. Ah! Then he flips out. I don't think this is a regular occurrence for such a powerful evil force, and it's all because of the selflessness and bravery of the Flash, letting himself die just to show up the Anti-Monitor one last time. I'm just picturing Anti-Monitor sitting at his desk reworking his plans after this goes down, like, ah man, okay, antimatter machine, no go, tried that, but failed. Man, maybe I've just lost my touch. Maybe I should find a nice universe where I can retire. Maybe I should just relax for a bit. How was that Anti-Monitor impression? Is that how you think he talked?
Number 10, Peter Parker. Hey, we didn't say which Spider-Man was doing the embarrassing here. Peter Parker and Miles Morales met for the first time when Peter was teleported to Miles' universe. Now, I don't know why Peter's first decision was to attack Mr. Morales. He's had clones of himself before, and he's also been to other alternate universes, but hey, that's what he did. And it was 110% a mistake. As fans of Miles know, he is extremely capable. And he also has a unique Spider-Man power set. He used his Venom sting to paralyze Peter while jumping over him. He then went invisible and got Peter with a sneak attack kick to the face. It doesn't stop there though. After Peter demasked Miles, he got a nice electric shock that knocked him out cold. For an 11-year-old kid, Miles gave the experienced Peter Parker quite the beating. Number 9. Winter Soldier and Falcon. For a young lad, Peter Parker seems to overpower a lot of people. In his introduction to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Peter just shows us and two of Captain America's best pals that he ain't someone to mess with. During their fight, he overpowered the super soldier, even using his metal arms against him, disables and webs up Falcon, and redirects a huge chunk of metal flung at him by the Winter Soldier, all while quipping in the best ways possible. It was honestly so awesome to see when it first happened. He leaves them laying on the ground exhausted and webbed up. Not only an embarrassment for the two veteran soldiers and heroes, but a really fitting and hilarious introduction for the character to the MCU. Number 8. Luke Cage. A lot of the time, when a new hero is introduced into a comic book world, a fight between the misunderstood hero and another has to take place. That is exactly what happened when Luke Cage came on the scene. Luke Cage, the hero for hire, showed up in the Amazing Spider-Man number 123, hired by J. Jonah Jameson to capture Spider-Man for the death of Norman Osborn. Luke Cage ain't a guy you should underestimate by any means. Super strength and stamina, bulletproof skin, and a healing factor. But it's Spider-Man. Luke tackles Spider-Man off a roof and gets a few punches in. But Spider-Man kicked him off of another roof, teased him about basically being a mercenary, slammed him through a brick wall, got several fists to the face in, used Luke's own weight against him, and punched him through a skylight. They come to blows later on in the comic with pretty much the same outcome, causing Luke Cage to quit this one particular job. Go Web! Fly! Up away Web! Shazam! Go Web go! 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 Go Web go! Oh wait, that's not my power. No, my power is to make YouTube videos for you guys. Do you know what gives me this power? You liking and subscribing to the channel. And you are doing an absolutely stunning job. Keep it up. And don't forget to check out our Facebook for more content. Number 7. Green Arrow. Green Arrow and Batman have had a few scuffles before, and on the last list, we learned he isn't even considered a threat by Batman really. Things kinda get taken to another level though, in Superman Batman issue 14 in 2005, Pretenders to the Throne. Batman and Superman have become villains and rule over the country. Batman brings Superman to Green Arrow as a sick, twisted birthday present so they can pummel him together. Green Lantern actually gets Supes for the kryptonite arrow, which seems to only make Batman more angry, and after a hit with the bow, he completely lays into Green Arrow. That is, until Superman completely disintegrates him with his heat vision. Yikes. You know, maybe this is more sadistic than embarrassing. Number 6. Spawn. In 1994, Spawn was a powerhouse of money making. Now take that character and stick him in a comic with arguably one of the most popular characters ever, Batman, and you've got an instant success. While it may have been over the top ridiculously violent, it's still an awesome comic. As we said before, any team up has to have a little scuffle between the two main heroes, and this was one hell of a scuffle. It was brutal and violent. While it may have ended in a draw, during the fight, Batman actually ended up stabbing Spawn in the face with a batarang. The scar from this attack made its way into mainline Spawn comics, while Batman walked away without as much as a scratch. Fight Batman, and he'll give you a scar even your fans have to remember. Number 5. The Justice League. In Justice League Doom, the animated movie, Batman is being scolded by the other members of the Justice League for having contingencies to immobilize each member of the League. They are deciding if they should make him leave the Justice League for this. Batman just kinda helps them decide. If you people can't see the potential danger of an out-of-control Justice League, I don't need to wait for a vote. I don't belong here. And he just walks out of there. Superman goes to him and asks what his contingency for Batman himself was, and he says, the Justice League. As someone on Reddit said, Batman is 100% right in this fight. Batman quit on his own terms, Batman built the Justice League's watchtower and has a deep understanding of how it works, and Batman left the watchtower to them, despite having designed, funded, and built it. Number 4. The Flash. The Justice League animated TV show in 2001. After the somewhat newly formed Justice League become fugitives, running and hiding from the Thanagarian troops, they take shelter in a department store. They come up with the solution of trading in their superhero costumes for regular street clothes to disguise themselves. This is when Flash pipes up, trying to voice his opinion about the whole secret identity thing. Batman cuts him off, walking right up to him, pointing at each member who has a secret identity, and straight up just saying their real names. Clark Kent, Wally West, Bruce Wayne. Yeah, shut up, Flash! Number 3. Aquaman. Okay, look, Aquaman does have some serious power, and in recent years, he's gotten a hell of a lot better. Partially thanks to Jason Momoa. But this story, well, it really doesn't make him look good. In Legends of the DC Universe number 27, the Joker goes to Atlantis and convinces everyone there, including Aquaman, that he is the king of the land. Aquaman even admits he's heard of Joker before from Batman, but that he just doesn't pay attention. Aquaman goes to the surface where he suddenly has trouble walking, can't figure out how to contact Batman, and he gets pepper sprayed. Then, Batman shows up and says no to helping Aquaman, so Aquaman attacks him. This gives us a full 3-page spread of Batman completely beating the gills off of Aquaman. Which is even more embarrassing when you realize Aquaman has actual powers. Number 2, Martian Manhunter. Okay, this is a short little moment, but it shows us a side to Bruce Wayne I don't think any of us knew existed. In JLA issue number 27 in 1999, there is a single page. Bruce Wayne is meeting with Clark Kent and a mystery woman who Clark introduces as Hino Ray, and she greets Bruce. In the very next panel, we find out that this woman is actually John Johns, the Martian Manhunter, in disguise. How? Well, Batman says that while the accent was flawless, the name was a dead giveaway. Now, this may fly right over your head, it did for me at first, but Ray Hino is the name of Sailor Mars from Sailor Moon. That means that Batman, Bruce Wayne, billionaire and mass detective vigilante who has mortally wounded characters like Darkseid and beats criminals to a pulp with his bare hands, watches Sailor Moon. So does Martian Manhunter for that fact. Is it embarrassing? Up to you, but what? Number 1, Judge Dredd. In the Batman vs. Judge Dredd comic that ended up putting Batman in the world of 2000 AD's most famous character, Judge Dredd, Batman is arrested and taken to the Hall of Justice for being a vigilante and carrying around all the tech and weaponry that Batman does. Judge Dredd refuses to ally with Bruce to fight Judge Death, who is going to Gotham and will kill everyone there and on that Earth, saying that 1, he is going to put Bruce away for 20 years for his crimes, and 2, that Gotham is out of their jurisdiction. Bruce loses it and busts out of his bonds and starts to wail on the judge. Assaulting a judge? That's 10 years in prison. Make it 20, Bruce yells as he kicks Dredd in the face.
Number 10, Deadpool has a breakthrough. A breakthrough. Get it? You will. There have been a few times that Wolverine has shamed and embarrassed Deadpool, especially in combat. One such time, Deadpool was actually the one looking for a fight, and so Wolverine decided to oblige him. But he didn't just do that, he also gave him some pretty witty retorts as well. You see, Deadpool was made to believe that fighting Wolverine would help resolve some issues he has with his own past. And while Wolverine not only schooled him in combat, but also wisdom, at one point Deadpool asks Logan to dig deeper. Not knowing at the time what Wade is talking about at all, Wolverine responds with that deep enough murk as he stabs him through with his claws. Wolverine has always had some of the best mid-combat speeches and retorts. He also might have the mutant power of being able to leap and give you a whole speech during that one leap. Number 9, Namor gets beat in his own domain. Surprisingly, Wolverine has seemingly held his own against Namor more than once in the comics. One such time was when the two duked it out in Civil War. Their fight goes down in Wolverine's tie-in issues, mainly being featured in issue 45. Here, not only does Wolverine prove himself on land, but also in the sea, breaking into Atlantis and Namor's palace, and even managing to hold his own in combat against Namor's guards, fighting underwater. And Wolverine isn't usually the best at fighting underwater. He has an underwater suit of Iron Man's to aid him, but it doesn't seem to operate very smoothly for him. Despite this, he gets a few good hits in at Namor, punching him back for a joke that he made when he thought Wolverine was Iron Man about keeping Wolverine on a tighter leash. Yikes. In the end, Wolverine also proves himself to Namor, and despite their disagreement over who should get custody of the criminal Nitro, Namor meets him later at a bar to give Wolverine the information that he was looking for, which I think is pretty nice. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to hear about more embarrassing moments that Wolverine has doled out, be sure to head on over to Facebook and click that like, because we are going to be putting up more content over there, and there'll be lots of good stuff for you in regards to Wolverine and other heroes. Number 8, Emma Frost's dirty secrets revealed. Dirty, dirty secrets. Actually, it's not that dirty. It's not that dirty of a secret in my mind, but you know. In this moment, it appeared to be, I guess, kind of dirty. During the first Civil War, Wolverine sets out on his own mission to capture Nitro, the one behind the start of the Civil War. Basically, the catalyst, if you will. He does this against the wishes of Cyclops and Emma Frost. When Emma and Cyke confront him about it in the 2003 Wolverine series in issue 46, the issue following the one with Namor, Emma threatens to basically mind wipe him back to a 3-year-old mental capacity. Wolverine responds by putting Emma in her place by one, reminding her that the psi shields Professor X gave him protects him against her powers, and two, by revealing that he knows she and Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, used to, team up. Well, Emma seems pretty shocked that Wolverine knows about this and is pretty embarrassed that he outed this previous relationship of hers to Scott. Her reaction is also interesting, as it's also during Civil War I, I believe, that she discloses that Scott does know of their relationship, of her relationship with Tony in the past, in a different comic. Although, maybe this happened after that, but I do believe the issue where Emma brings it up is Civil War issue number 3, and I think that was released before this issue. But maybe the continuity in canon is different than the release order, or I just found a continuity error, and that's what that is.
Number 7. The Hulk. In terms of raw power, Spider-Man stands absolutely no chance against the Hulk. I think his spider sense may give him some kind of advantage, but there is no way he is lasting long in that fight. Unless he gets a power boost in the form of, the power cosmic. Oh, that's exactly what happened in the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 328. The Grey Hulk, who yes is a bit weaker and logical compared to his Savage counterpart, is hired by Sebastian Shaw to target Spider-Man. Money is always a good motivator. Unfortunately for Hulk, Spider-Man has been going to the cosmic gym and hitting the cosmic weights. He lands some pretty heavy blows on the Grey Goliath and even blinds him with a new I-beam power. When some kids are put in danger though, Spider-Man ends the conflict quick by punching the Hulk into orbit and then saving him before he suffocates, standing all confident with his hands on his hips and like that. Number 6. The Fantastic Four. In the very first issue of his self-titled magazine, Spider-Man is putting other heroes to shame. Spider-Man infiltrates the Baxter Building, where he is encased in a plexiglass cage that he very easily opens the door to. He takes a single punch from the thing before he throws him into Johnny Storm. When Reed tries to catch Peter, he totally just dodges it and webs up Mr. Fantastic's hands. He uses his spider sense to detect Sue Storm while she's invisible and spins her around really fast with her lasso. But then, Johnny Storm gets him in a circle of flame. He says, and I quote, "Well, I'll just jump over that clown's little trap." It's honestly a pretty impressive display, and it happened in no less than 1.5 pages. The fight ends when Spider-Man lets him know that he's here to join up, and with that little fight was just a display of what he can do. Yeah, that little display would probably do better than a resume. Number 5. Iron Man. In the Civil War storyline, we know that Spider-Man initially is on the side of Tony Stark's Iron Man, but after he sees the lengths that Tony is willing to go to, he has a bit of a change of heart. Obviously, this leads to a scuffle between the two. At this time, Tony had given Peter the Iron Spider suit. What he didn't tell Peter is that he built in an emergency override that would shut down the suit and essentially shut down Peter with the simple phrase Omega Omega Epsilon 9. It's only a bit of a jerk move. You took Peter under your wing, but you're going to plant a failsafe against him? It kinda makes it look like you know you're guilty. But then again, he is a genius, he is a member of the Illuminati, and he is not the kind of guy to take risks. But how is this embarrassing for Tony? Well, I'm glad you asked, my little nerds. Peter is no idiot, and behind Stark's back, he hacked into the suit and built in his own override to override the override that Tony put there. Passcode, surprise. And the suit is back up and running and covers Tony's helmet in a thick layer of web, allowing Peter to get in a good punch and escape. Number 4. Wolverine. This one's a pretty quick one. I bet some of you thought I was going to pull from the Wolverine vs. Spider-Man comic. I'll do you one better. It should be obvious, but you don't dare insult Mary Jane Watson to Peter's face. In Amazing Spider-Man issue 522, Peter is awoken with a call about a newspaper article claiming Mary Jane has a little entanglement with Tony Stark. It's obviously not true and actually a setup by a villain. But that's not the point right now. Peter got out of his bed in Stark Tower and goes looking for his wife. Along the way, he runs into Wolverine in a room with a very lovely high-up view of the city. Now, Logan decides to start going on about how Mary Jane messed up big time, and after a warning from Peter, he decides to comment on her lack of brains. This lovely little comment gets him thrown through an unbreakable glass window, and it gives him a really colorful way to catch a cab. Number 3. Daredevil. When Spider-Man was in possession of the symbiote suit, he wasn't his normal self. He was much more ruthless. And Spider-Man can already knock criminals into a coma when he is pulling his punches. When Spider-Man interrupts Sin Eater Stanley Carter from attacking Betty Brant and almost killing her, he starts to lay into the guy, beating Stanley while giving him an earful. Peter goes so far that Daredevil notices his heartbeat pounding and pulls him off of the beaten villain. He defends the criminal from Peter, who is seemingly gonna kill him. If you want him, you'll have to come through me. Probably not the best choice of words there, Daredevil. The very next panel shows Daredevil flying through a window. If it wasn't such a serious moment, I would laugh. Nah, I did laugh. Is that wrong? I can't help it, I'm sorry. Number 2. The X-Men. It seems that Spider-Man really shows his skill when he comes into contact with teams of heroes. First the Fantastic Four, and in the 4th issue of Secret Wars, the X-Men. As if dealing with multiple superpowered beings was his speciality or something. I think the best part about these altercations is the way he just keeps talking while he's embarrassing them. After Xavier senses Spider-Man listening in on their conversation, Spider-Man attacks the X-Men a little prematurely, I'll admit. He dodges Wolverine, webs Colossus' face, dangles Rogue from a rod, webs up Nightcrawler faster than he can say BAMF, and swats Wolverine away with a single swing and escapes. It's just so crazy to me how he knows that he easily outclasses almost every one of the X-Men. Or if not, he knows exactly how to subdue them. Number 1. Superboy. If we're doing a video about characters embarrassing other heroes, there's almost always going to be one point that has to do with the DC and Marvel crossover event. Just like the first point, this isn't actually Peter Parker though, but it's a clone of him, so that's basically the same thing. When the DC Marvel crossover happened, Ben Reilly had taken up the Spider-Man mantle. And it was him that fought Superboy on a rooftop. To get things going, Spider-Man hits the Superboy with a webbing right to his very stylish sunglasses. Superboy, just trying to get a hit on our Spider friend, busts a hole into a water tower, drenching the entire battlefield. Spider-Man wouldn't stand too long in a one-on-one slugging match with this guy, but that's not his specialty anyways. Just as Superboy is about to land a flying blow into Spidey, he jumps out of the way, firing webbing all over the guy and leaving the soaking wet Superboy to fly straight into an electrical box, taking him right out of the fight. Number 10. The Human Torch. Johnny Storm and Peter Parker have been very close friends for a long time. And in comic books, where there is friendship, there is competitive rivalry. In the first video, I talked about the time the Fantastic Four first met Spider-Man, and the way he embarrassed every single one of them. Well, now I want to talk about something a little sillier. In the Spider-Man / Human Torch I'm With Stupid miniseries, Johnny Storm hires Peter Parker to get really good pictures of him since he just became a hero and he wanted some good publicity. Yes, really. Wanting some pictures of Johnny against a villain, he goes to Dr. Doom's lair and gets himself encased in a block of ice. Yes, really, again. Spider-Man saves him and swings him away and makes web ice picks to start getting Johnny out of his popsicle form. But after Johnny struggles a little bit too much, Peter accidentally chips away the part of ice holding Johnny's beloved golden hair, leaving him bald and crying for Reed Richards to fix the problem. Yes, really, for a 3rd time. Number 9. Ghost Rider. Say what you want about Spider-Man, but he is a hero, through and through. And sometimes he needs to remind others how to be that. In Spider-Man number 7 in 1990, Spider-Man and Ghost Rider are working together to defeat Hobgoblin. A kid named Adam gets grabbed by Hobgoblin, causing Spider-Man to look for a less direct approach. But not Ghost Rider. He barrels straight into Hobgoblin on his motorcycle, hitting Adam as well. Spider-Man gets to Adam before he crashes right into a wall. As Ghost Rider gets his hands on the unconscious Hobgoblin and is about to do his penance stare on him, Spider-Man interrupts him, saving Hobgoblin and giving Ghost Rider an earful about what it means to be a hero, sending him walking away in shame. Number 8. Doctor Strange. If you've seen Spider-Man No Way Home, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't yet, allow me to explain or skip to the next point if you don't want spoilers, but I promise you, I'll keep it light. Okay, so basically a whole whack of stuff takes place and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man end up fighting over an artifact. During the scuffle, Doctor Strange brings him and Peter to the mirror dimension, where things just go, well, kind of spirally and just insane. It's actually a really fun scene to watch, but basically, Peter realizes the mirror dimension is based on geometry, and he's great at geometry. And utilizing the absolutely amazing power of math, he strings up Doctor Strange, takes the artifact and Strange's sling ring, and leaves him webbed up and stuck in the mirror dimension. Hey you, I just wanted to briefly stop you here, just to say thanks. Thanks for being you, and thanks for liking and commenting and subscribing. I love reading your comments, even the mean ones. You should check us out on Facebook too if you wanna. Alright, moving on.
Number 7. Is Hulk really the strongest there is? Yes, he still is, I think. He is the strongest there is. But he's not always the smartest, as is proven here in this fight against Wolverine from Incredible Hulk issue 340. Now it should be noted that in this fight, Wolverine is actually taking on the Grey Hulk, which isn't known for being one of the strongest personas or versions of the Hulk. But still, the impressive part here isn't so much even Wolverine's skill and strength as a fighter, although you're likely to be impressed by that somewhat still if you're so inclined, but the smarts and character development we see Wolverine display here. Wolverine accidentally picks a fight with Hulk by insulting him, unintentionally. Hulk responds by attempting to attack Wolverine, who manages to get the first slash and kind of dodge in successfully, but then decides to take the higher road and actually chooses to apologize to the Hulk, not wanting to fight him and attempting to fight against his own internal animalistic desire and instincts to do so. When Hulk refuses to let him go and says, "I've gotten smarter and you've gotten gutless," Wolverine replied with, "Knowing when to fight and when to walk away is more smarts than you'll ever have." Yeah, I like that. Such a good Wolverine line to Hulk. Like, I'm just like, whoo! Ouch, you're gonna need some ice for that burn, Hulk. Number 6. Cable and Bishop both get bested. I can't even believe that this happened. Cable is considered an Omega level mutant, and yet Wolverine was still able to take him down. And for reference, Wolverine is considered Beta level when it comes to his abilities and his control over them more specifically. At least, I think he's still considered Beta level. He's definitely not Omega level, I'll tell you that much. Granted, Wolverine did have some help here from Bishop, and does at least choose to spare Cable during their fight as part of the Executioner song story. You see, he thinks that Cable is actually the one they're looking for, but really it's his evil twin Strife. Wolverine isn't quite ready to kill him dead though, not knowing about Strife, but he does have a small amount of doubt that stays in his head. So he's like, I'm just gonna hold off, because even though I think it's you, we don't know for sure. You're making me doubt it. Then when Bishop attempts to finish the job, because he's like, no way, we just hunted this guy down, we fought him, that's it, Wolverine in turn shows up Bishop by slicing his gun to pieces so that he can't actually kill Cable with it, telling him to cool off before getting another gun off the rack and getting back to sorting out this whole mess with Cable's currently very suspicious appearance and self. Even though, like we said, it's Strife, but we didn't know that yet. Or well, Wolverine didn't know that yet, at least. Number 5. Jean Grey gets more help than she bargained for. Jean gets more help than she asked for from Wolverine in this issue of X-Men. In fact, she didn't even really ask for his help to begin with, but she did complain about her ability to move freely in her outfit and her struggle to kind of like tear it so that she could move a little bit more freely. Which obviously was a classic mistake, because you know Logan is always more than happy to help Jeannie gain more mobility by maybe, you know, parting with pieces of her garment. Hey, he's just trying to help her out. This all goes down in the very first X-Men Christmas special that we ever got. In this story, the X-Men are kidnapped, and it's during their daring escape that Jean complains of her inability to move freely. She's trying to like tear her dress. So Wolverine, being the gentleman he is, sees her struggling and decides to help her tear away the bottom half of her gown, freeing up her movement, but at the expense of both irritating and seemingly confusing Jean, who actually responds with, "Hey, not so blasted short. Thank you very much, I think." I just love that whole response. She's like, I'm mad, but like, what even happened? Number 4. Cyclops is shamed. When Emma and Scott started seeing one another, Wolverine was pretty quick to embarrass them and shame them in front of the rest of the team. Mainly, he focused his ire on Scott, who he saw as betraying Jean's memory. And he wasn't alone either. By the way, at this point, Jean had recently died, and Scott and Emma were together, but yeah, people all felt pretty weird about it. A lot of the other X-Men felt similarly, and they began to actually treat Scott differently because of his and Emma's relationship. This was because the two had started seeing one another psychically while Scott was still with Jean, but he and Marvel Girl, as she was formerly known, were having marital problems at the time. He had a psychic affair with Emma, and then after Jean died, immediately started like just being in this very public relationship with her. Wolverine even went so far as to fight Scott physically over this blossoming relationship with Emma. Don't worry though, Jean's ghost would arrive to give Scott the green light so we could all feel better about the whole thing. Jean's ghost always coming back to be like, look, everyone just be cool. I'm Jean's ghost. I am like a god. Number 3, Shatterstar gets shattered. That's right, Wolverine pretty much completely embarrassed and obliterated Shatterstar in the Executioner's Song story. While Shatterstar did seem to miraculously survive here, Wolverine gave him a fistful of claws, not only embarrassing Shatterstar, but also leaving Richter pretty distraught amidst the loss of his most dearest friend. Even back in the 90s, the feelings were pretty strong between Richter and Shatterstar, as is evident here, and in many of the comics. This all went down in an epic fight between various X-teams, including a split-up X-Men roster into 2 separate teams, Blue and Gold, and X-Factor besides. Wolverine is quick to jump into action, and Shatterstar doesn't even get to show off his own impressive fighting skills much before Wolverine turns him into a shish kebab. For someone who is known for being a proud warrior, this whole display, I imagine, would be pretty disappointing for Shatterstar. While he didn't physically die from his injury here, he may have died of embarrassment. Number 2, Spider-Man gets hit where it hurts. In the heart. You can tell that this was a moment that really was upsetting to Peter Parker's Spider-Man because of how he reacts to it. At one point when both Wolverine and Spider-Man are staying in Avengers Tower, Pete and MJ, who is also there with Peter, have a kind of a relationship scandal. A news story is basically being spread around that MJ, who is still married to Peter at the time, is having an affair with Tony Stark. While Peter is distraught about this, Wolverine takes the opportunity to make a joke at MJ's expense and at the expense of her and Peter's relationship. He says, and I quote, "Sweet Cheeks messed up big time. It's not your fault she screwed up. I mean, if she had brains to go with all that beauty, she wouldn't be with you in the first place, right?" Ouch! Peter of course reacts by pushing Wolverine so hard that he goes flying through and out of a ceiling-to-floor window in the high-rise that was supposed to be made of unbreakable glass. So you can tell that that one probably cut real deep for Peter. Whew. Number 1, the X-Force are defeated. The defeat of Shatterstar was just the beginning for the X-Force, unfortunately, in Executioner's Song. Shortly thereafter, they would also be tracked down by Wolverine and taken out primarily by him and Psylocke, forced to surrender to the Blue X-Men and X-Factor teams. And they were backed into a corner fairly easily, I gotta say, with Wolverine choosing to hunt them down and citing it as one of the things he is best known for, which obviously here he proves he is best known for it. He's pretty good at hunting people down. Although I imagine X-Force, like the other teams, also felt pretty conflicted about this whole fight against their friends, so this combined with Wolverine's ruthlessness probably helped to convince them in surrendering. Still, pretty embarrassing that basically Wolverine and Psylocke show up and they're like, hey, we're just gonna do this, and then everyone comes in at the end to be like, yeah, we're here too.
At number 10, we have the time when Thanos turns Nova into literal Lego pieces. After Thanos faces off against a large group of heroes and starts picking them off one by one, it's finally the last straw for Nova, who tries to intervene and put a stop to Thanos' mayhem. Nova, being a younger superhero, he's bold enough to take a stab at Thanos himself. And don't get it twisted, Nova is actually quite a powerhouse, so readers might have expected him to at least make some kind of a dent on the Titan, but no, Thanos effortlessly stops Nova in his tracks and turns him into Lego pieces. And this is intentional, something that Thanos does to humiliate Nova. As he does what he does, he mutters, "like a child's toy blocks," mocking Nova's age and lack of experience. Brutal. And the list gets worse. At number 9, we have the time when Thanos knocks out Captain Marvel. This event takes place in the MCU when Carol Danvers tries to intercept Thanos' effort to use the Infinity Gauntlet. With her incredible strength, she almost succeeds at putting a stop to him, and he might even be concerned at this moment himself, because if any hero is going to swoop in and stop him at this very point, it would be Captain Marvel. I mean, she can destroy whole alien spaceships by simply flying through them with her body, among so many other things. But right as Thanos is about to lose, he reinstates his supremacy by yanking out the Power Stone and using it to power up a superpowered punch and basically knocking out Carol cold. This is a serious disrespect to Captain Marvel's power and integrity. She simply just isn't used to being punched out like this, but in this instance, Thanos is an exception. Okay, at number 8 is when Thanos totally embarrasses Atri by encasing his hands in metal. Unfortunately, what he does here goes quite beyond embarrassment and into tragedy as he murders all of Nidavalire's people. except for Eitri, of course. Now I know Eitri isn't a superhero, but it still is a kick in the shins to Thor and the rest of the team quite directly actually. You see, Eitri was supposed to craft Thor's hammer, which he was going to use to defeat Thanos, but instead, Thanos shows up early before the team can approach Eitri with the job and has the dwarf craft the Infinity Gauntlet instead, and then he traps his hands in metal. Not only that, but he kills all the other dwarves, leaving only the one that mattered to him. This is clearly an effort to humiliate Thor and his teammates by sort of saying, "Look, I'm always going to be one step ahead of you guys, and even though I could have killed Eitri as well, I decided to let him tell you how it all went down. Oh, and by the way, he's useless to you now as well because his hands are in metal."
Number 7. Luke Cage. Alright, we covered Luke Cage getting his butt handed to him the first time around, but I found a hilarious and much more subtle embarrassment dished out by Spidey. In New Avengers Volume 1, number 51, after Spider-Man revealed his identity to the Avengers, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage's wife, recognizes him because they went to high school together, and she had the biggest crush on Peter. Now, fast forward to issue number 53, Spider-Man and the New Avengers are floating in their Quinjet above New Orleans, looking for a place to land, when Spider-Man starts talking to Luke Cage about his wife apparently being in love with Spider-Man in high school, which he had no idea about, and while she's cute and all that, he believes in the statutes of marriage and the institutions, so Luke has nothing to worry about from him. But if him and Iron Fist broke up, then he'd like to get in on that action, you know? Luke just wants out as he calls Clint to land the damn plane already. Number 6. Firelord. Okay, look, he's not a hero. Well, he's hardly an anti-hero. In fact, he's kind of an anti-villain, but Firelord, the former Herald of Galactus and eventual member of the Nova Corps, came to Earth wanting to partake in all the great stuff we got going on here, only to be attacked by firefighters and eventually Spider-Man himself. And now, he wants revenge for the embarrassment. Look, he's not from here, okay? Just because he has different ideas of what's fair doesn't mean that he's evil, right? After Spidey leads the spicy Firelord on a chase all around New York, he decides to engage him hand to hand, and boy does he go off, dodging every swing against him with his spider sense and landing countless blows on the alien, leaving him unconscious when the Avengers show up to pull Spider-Man off of him. Number 5. Phoenix, Colossus, and Magic. A duo? And this duo? I know, it's crazy. In Avengers vs. X-Men number 9, a group of 5 X-Men were granted quite the power boost in the form of the Phoenix Force. The mutant siblings Colossus and Magic were 2 of these X-Men. Now, Spider-Man is physically no match for either one of these guys, not with the Phoenix Force. But Spider-Man isn't one to let something like that stop him. Even when beaten to a pulp, he still has that charming personality and beautiful brain. When one of the avatars for the Phoenix Force is defeated, the power of the remaining 4 gets boosted even more, and it's just these 2 left. And Spider-Man gives them a little innocent reminder of that fact. Now, we don't get to see the fight that takes place between the 2. Instead, we get to see the unconscious bodies of both of them, with Spider-Man still barely standing to let everyone know he got them to knock each other out. Number 4. Tony Stark and Reed Richards. I love when Spider-Man gets to show how smart he actually is. In Big Time The Amazing Spider-Man, the new Sinister Six has activated big boomies all over New York, and the Avengers are struggling with how to disarm and deactivate them in the 2 minutes and 28 seconds they have left. Reed Richards and Tony Stark, 2 of the smartest men on the whole planet, were going over options on how to disarm the thing. Freeze the thermal assembly? Nope. Use a sliver of vibranium? That won't do it. Spider-Man's got it. After taking a look at the clock, Peter runs over to the computer running the device and begins to sync up the timer with the system clock. Now, why the heck would he do that? Well, you see, it was the first Sunday in November, which means daylight savings time. Which means Peter just bought them an extra hour to get rid of the devices. Nice move, kid. Number 3. Clint Barton as Ronin. During Dark Reign, the Avengers were more of a covert rogue team. Their leaders were lost in civil war. Secret Invasion had put everyone against everyone, unsure of who was a Skrull and who wasn't, and now Norman Osborn was in charge of everything. The new Avengers know they've got to find some way of getting Norman. Clint Barton, who was Ronin at the time, tried a media smear campaign, and it didn't really go too well. So now, he just wants him gone, and he suggests just that in New Avengers issue 55. Spider-Man word slaps the gathered Avengers into their senses. Peter steps out right in the face of the idea of delifing anyone. Am I the only one here who wants to, act heroic in the face of adversity? He goes on to say that now that they don't have their Tony Stark money or Avengers Mansion and butlers, that Ronan is cracking up under the weight of the real world. Yeah, tell him, Spidey. Yeah. Number 2, Nova. Look, comics back in the day weren't always written the best, okay? In Nova number 12, Richard Rider is trying to find the criminal who de-lifed his uncle, Ralph Rider, and he flies past Spider-Man doing battle with the criminal. Now, Nova has seen Spider-Man in the papers with wanted signs and articles saying that he's a crook. And if he's here, then Nova has gotta at least make sure he had nothing to do with Richard's uncle, right? Look, he was distraught, okay? This little scuffle doesn't really go Nova's way though. After he lands a kind of cheap shot on Spider-Man, he catches some webs to the visor, then a fist, and after he lifts Spidey into the air, he catches a nice pair of Spidey boots to the dome as well. And as with most embarrassing fights, Spidey is giving him an earful about the error of his ways in the most hilarious way possible. Number 1, the Avengers. This isn't so embarrassing in the direct sense. You see, when all the Avengers and the Fantastic Four were off in a pocket universe fighting the villain Onslaught, New York lost its main defenders. Spider-Man, by himself, stepped into the role of the Avengers. One guy filled the role of a whole team, defending New York from all supercrime, and keeping the people of New York in remembrance of the seemingly gone superheroes. You know what? It's just what Spider-Man would do. He would step up when things looked their bleakest and take the heavy weight of being solely responsible for defending the world. Now, yes, this was the clone of Peter Parker, Ben Reilly, but he holds the same morals and powers. And the man took on an invasion of Sentinels, so yeah, he is taking this one. There were other non-active Avengers on the Earth still, and while they were considering coming back as a team, Spider-Man just did it. Way to go, Tiger.